Welcome to MyCounselor.Online. I'm Tori, and this is Asking for a Friend. In today's video, we're going to be sitting down with licensed therapist Josh Spurlock to talk about the misconceptions that can often happen around sex, especially within the church and among women. Stay tuned. Welcome to Asking for a Friend. Josh, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic.
Great. Well, today I have a question for you here on Asking for a Friend. Rose asks, how do I identify sexual desire? After thinking sex was dirty for my entire life and shunning thoughts of it, how do I recognize it now?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rose, and one that a lot of gals are asking. As a sex therapist, I frequently have Christian couples coming in from the church who have gotten the message either explicitly or implicitly through silence that sex is dirty, it's bad, and that to feel sexual feelings is a lust, and that any sense of arousal or awareness of sexuality, either that they're a sexual creature or that others might be sexually attractive, is sinful. And so any sign of that has to be shut down and shut down hard. And so, having gotten that message over the course of their entire life, have gotten maybe really good at shutting down their own awareness of their sexual experience. Because working to suppress or shut those things down doesn't actually make them go away. Like, you can't will away being horny, and you can't will away a sense of attraction or sexual arousal within your body. That those are very normal, natural ways in which God wired your body, and you can block those things out from conscious awareness. As we kind of suppress them, we press them down, but they're not actually going away. We're just kind of doing this with them, right? They're still over there, but we're kind of doing this so as to not look at them, because we've gotten messages that doing so, acknowledging them, having an awareness of them is shameful in some way. But we get lots of practice of that sometimes growing up within in a church setting. And so we can be so good at that that then as we get married, it's not like a light switch that flips and suddenly we're like able to fully embrace and engage all of our sexual being and acknowledge that and feel comfortable pursuing and sharing that with our spouse, even though that's sometimes the message that we get from the church setting, that somehow if we get really good at blocking those things out, that God will show us favor in that, and as soon as we get married, the floodgates will burst free and it will just be like bliss. But that's not the experience for a lot of folks.
Totally, totally. And as a woman speaking into this, you know, I grew up my whole life in church with this purity, 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 which is good. But it got to a point where it was so drilled into me that coming into a marriage relationship where God intends for sex to be and sex to be pleasurable was so difficult for me, because I had just drilled it into my head that it was, like you said, Rose, dirty, and wrong, and that I shouldn't be thinking about it. But at the end of the day, right, like God designed this. God designed sex. He designed sex to be within this marriage relationship. So Josh, what would you say kind of as practical steps forward into getting out of that, I don't know what the word is, but just that mindset of sex is bad, sex is wrong? What would you say practically to Rose about that?
Yes. So there's a need for us to, before we even get to that place, kind of differentiate between sexual purity and the sexual behavior, thoughts, actions, right? So when we think about sexual purity, it really is about what it is that we do with our experience. You know, where it is that we go. Do we navigate? Do we steward our sexuality, this gift that God's given us, in a way that's honoring to God's design for it, honoring of ourselves, honoring of our future spouse? It's not about denying our humanity. We can actually get into kind of a Gnostic heresy kind of dynamic where the Gnostics kind of denied our humanity and that all things fleshly, all things somatos were sinful and evil and bad. And they took that to the extreme of saying Christ couldn't have come in a physical body because all things physical are sinful and bad. And so they kind of denied the incarnation. We have all sorts of Gnostic heresy that is a part of the first century church. And sometimes we can get into that in a modern day version of that that says that the body and the experience that God's wired into our body by design is somehow evil and bad inherently within itself, which is not something that the scriptures teach or communicate. And so really isn't something that we should communicate as the church, but instead recognize that the experience of our arousal, the experience of sexual attraction, the sexual excitement, that those are just natural developmental parts of being human, and that they can be validated as good and valuable and taught to steward that in a way that's honoring to God's design and to our future marriage. So that's really, if we're going to, kind of compare starting places in terms of if the one is not helpful, kind of the demonizing of our physiological experience of sexual desire and arousal, that's not consistent with the scriptures and not helpful and can be create obstacles to a healthy sexual relationship as an adult. I also want to lay out the alternative, right? And that piece of being able to validate the goodness of sexual arousal, sexual excitement, sexual desire as part of God's design in our humanity. And through that acknowledgement of it, a learning how to steward that in a way that's healthy and honoring to God's design. So we're not saying that purity is a bad thing. We're saying that the implicit message that's come along with messaging around purity that says the experience of sexual excitement, arousal, desire is a bad thing is the error in that teaching that can be really destructive down the road. Well, let's jump to Rose's question, right? Because Rose has the question of, so that's been my experience and the impact that's had on me. What do I do about it, right? Now that I'm in this place. And there's an awful lot of gals that are asking that question. So the beginning place is really, first of all, getting settled in our heart, in our mind, that our sexual arousal and sexual experience is a good thing, right? And that it is not only sanctioned by God as a permissible behavior, but was his idea to begin with, that you being horny and experiencing sexual excitement and desire is something that God thought of, that he wired you for, and that he delights in, that you would experience that for yourself, and that you would enjoy sharing that with your spouse. That theologically, that's sound and true to the scriptures and something that we can open our heart to. And thinking about and being mindful of the angst and anxiety that the topic brings up is a good starting place for beginning to unravel the impact of those things. Even as I use the word horny in this video, that for some that's going to create some discomfort and angst. Can we even say that word? Can we even use a word that acknowledges sexual excitement or desire? And that there's a sense of that something inside of you kind of pulls back from that, just discussing the topic of sexuality. And so even in the course of just right now, as you're watching this video, it would be helpful for you to hit the pause button and to grab a notepad and just kind of give yourself some space to notice what it is that you're experiencing, right? That we're tuning into our physiological experience. Is there angst or tension that you're feeling in your chest? Is there tension across your neck and in your body? Do you notice yourself feeling a discomfort in your body around the topic? Can you wrap words around where you notice that in your body? Can you sit with and hold a microphone up to those feelings? Go, what are they saying? What is that about? What's that tension there that you're experiencing about? And to begin to make friends with your own experience, kind of get to know your experience in a deep way so that you can begin to understand what those responses are about. That having that understanding around this discussion, even that's happening right here, right now, as you're watching this video, is the gateway to beginning to understand the larger picture of your experience that carries into your bedroom and your marital relationship. So that's one piece. We've got to tune into our emotional experience around topics of sexuality and allow them to inform us about the things that need to heal and the things that need to change. A next piece that I would give you in terms of just a self-help, what can I do, is tune into just things of a sensual nature, right? That of a sensation nature, that not specifically of a sexual nature, but are just sensual in nature, right? Whether that be scent, right? And paying attention to what things smell like, and your sensation of kind of taking in, whether that be flowers or perfume or lotion, things that the way it smells. Think about the sheets on your bed, and lay on them, run your hand across them, and really attune to what the physical sensation that you're experiencing is that's there. Think about just lotioning dry skin. It's, being able to, like you would in wintertime, when the skin is dry, you put on lotion, slow down instead of just going through the motions of quickly kind of getting the job done and getting lotion on your hands and your arms and legs and for dry skin purposes. And notice the sensation of your hand on your skin. Kind of really take in the sensation kind of nature of that. And notice what your emotional response is as you are slowing down and intentionally paying attention to what your body's experiencing, the sensation of it. That's what we call sensate focus is a starting place for beginning to connect with your experience. Because again, the practice that you've been engaging for some time is one of this, kind of not noticing, pushing out of conscious awareness parts of your experience. And instead, we're wanting to learn to instead look intentionally at those different aspects of your experience and lean into an awareness of them and a fully embracing of those experiences. And if you can start doing that around things that are not explicitly sexual in nature, the practice of learning to lean into those sensual experiences will be easier because they don't have the same baggage, the same negative emotional association as the sexual subject matter does. And so we can strengthen that muscle of attunement, sensate focus, awareness around easier topics to enjoy. And then we can build on that to learn to lean into our sexual experience and to do the same thing with our own sexual experience. So that's a starting place for you. There's lots of good resources like Doug Rosenau's The Celebration of Sex, Cliff and Joyce Penner's Restoring the Pleasure are both books that you could pick up and engage. Joyce Penner's got a great book out called Enjoy that is written to women specifically around overcoming some of the challenges that are common to female sexuality. So those are three resources that I would strongly recommend to you, Rose, as things that you can lean into and get some practical direction from on how to start working through those things. And if you run into roadblocks along the way, finding that they not knowing how to apply those things, or just something that you don't understand and can't figure out why you can't get past in this, then it would be good for you to reach out and connect with a sex therapist, either locally in your area. You can find local sex therapists through the American Board of Christian Sex Therapists website. They have a listing of clinicians that are certified in sex therapy in different areas. And if you don't have anybody accessible in your area, be welcome to reach out to MyCounselor.Online and connect with one of the sex therapists on our team that can connect with you wherever it is that you're at to troubleshoot that difficulty.
Awesome. That is great practical advice, Josh. Thank you so much. Rose, I hope that answered your question. And I pray against shame over this subject, which I know is a touchy one for a lot of us, especially as women. So thank you so much for your question, and we will see you next time. If you liked this video, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel below. And if you have a question that you'd like to ask one of our licensed therapists, you can ask that at MyCounselor.Online/ask. We'll see you next time on Asking for a Friend.